something very strange happened in my life, and also it happened to my house. So I left my house wide open for 2 days and 2 nights. I wasn't around. You won't believe what happened. But before I get to what happened that day, let me share something that happened so many years ago in my life. I had just joined campus. It was my first year, second semester. I could no longer stay within the campus, and I had to look for a house. I used to hustle here and there. So I got a house and I rented that house. And because I had some saving and we used also to get some help rooms, I was able even to furnish my small single room. It had some seats. You know, when you are a student, having seats is a big achievement. Immediately after moving in less than 2 or 3 days, I heard that our campus was organizing a mission. And the mission was just behind where I was living. They were hosted by a church that was in the area where my house was. And at this moment, because I really loved God, I decided, though I have not stayed here even a week, I am going to leave my house and I won't be coming back to the house, though it's very close. It was like 500 meters to where the church was, but I decided I will be sleeping with other missioners in that church. Something weird happened. The very first night I went to that mission. So the house I had rented was a double house. So the front room, another business. But since my interest was not to put a business, I was just a new year student. I didn't even have capital, so I rented the back house. You could access the house using the front door where the business house was, and as for me who had rented the back house, I could access the house through the back door. And it happened that very night at around 3, thieves started breaking into the front house. Remember, this front house was vacant. I was living at the back. Whatever was separating us was a wooden door, and it was a very simple wooden door which could be broken by just one knock, and you get whatever that was inside the next room, which was my room, from the front door, and no one will notice. So this started breaking down from the front door. I'm not at home. And at this 3 p.m., the thieves are breaking down. My neighbor, whose house was just below mine, at 3 p.m., my neighbor started feeling uncomfortable. She couldn't get the sleep, and she woke up. And so my neighbor decides that I am going to, since I'm not able to sleep, I'm going to keep myself busy. And she switches on the lights. When she switches on the light, remember guys that my house is like in the middle one, but you can easily access it from the front door, and my neighbor's house is the last one. So in between where I am and where the thieves are, there is my house which can easily be accessed. So when the thieves saw the light, they ran away. The light from her house was magnified to be very great light, such that the thieves thought that I was the one who switched on the lights, and the thieves ran away. While on the other hand, I am not even in the house. I am worshiping God wherever I am. The next day, that is when my neighbor discovered that the door in front had been broken, and they were like, what really happened? And the neighbor narrated the same story. So at this point, I discovered that it was God who magnified the light, such that the enemy or the thieves could not continue to access my house. As for me, I continued being in the mission field up to the end, and when I came back, that was when I was told what happened, and it happened without me knowing. For those 3 days I never got distracted. I continued doing whatever had taken me to the mission field. At that point, I discovered that God allowed it that I could not know whatever had happened within those 3 days, so that I may not be distracted from serving Him. Because maybe if I knew thieves were trying to attack my house, the human nature of me, I could think, let me go back to my house so that this cannot attack me. But God allowed me to not to get aware of whatever was happening in my house. I also discovered from that point that God takes care of us. Like, how was it possible that at 3 p.m. the thieves are attacking my house, and at this 3 p.m. my neighbor gets uncomfortable and switches on the light? And how was it possible? The light was not from my house, it was from her house that really magnified so great. I discovered it took only the hand of God. And at this point, I also learned that though the devil tries to distract us from serving God, from fulfilling our purposes, if we fully surrender to our God, God is able to take charge of us. You cannot be serving God and then come back to cry because of the bad things that happened wherever you are serving God. So guys, that was amazing. I just felt like sharing it with you guys because it happened. And now let me get back to what happened some 3 days ago. So I wake up on Friday. Our country was having some strikes here, some mandamanos here for like 3 days, and I'm like, though these mandamanos are happening, I still need to go to work, and I really wanted to participate in a worship experience that was happening in our church. So at this point, I tried to rush and finish everything very fast that early morning so that I may go take care of my customers. I don't want to go to the worship experience having people's money, and some people are cursing me for not having delivered their items. So I chose to first deliver their items, and there were so many because 3 days I had not delivered them because of the mandamano, the strike thing. So at that point, I left my door not closed. Like, I left it like this. You see, I left it that wide open and went for 2 days. I wasn't aware it was like this. And let me show you where I live. I live near a road. This is where the road is. You see? And I left my door like this, like that. And I went for a worship experience. So I left it for that wide open, and I'm not even aware that is how I left it. And funny, I'm not going for a worship experience, a place that I'm going to come back, because I'm going outside town. I'm going to Nakuru, and I live in Nairobi. So, and also something so funny, at this point, most of the time when I'm traveling, I always tell my caretaker that I am leaving. Please ensure you try and see whatever is happening around my house. Just know you're the one who is in charge. But this time, I don't even tell our caretaker that I am leaving. I just go. But later I discovered, I never remembered to tell my caretaker, because my caretaker could have discovered that I left the door open and maybe call me and tell me, Sarah, bra, how can I access your house? And maybe I would be distracted and even come back before the worship experience was over. So I go for the worship experience. It was the most amazing moment of my life. It was a moment of encountering with God. And after the worship experience, I traveled back on Sunday. And I arrived here very, very late. I arrived at 10 p.m., 10:30 p.m. And the first thing I notice is the door is open. And the first thing I see is my phone. I had left it on a seat there. And it's very okay. I check my house. There is nothing that seems like it was stolen. And at this point, I'm like, God. So you are the soldier who took care of my house. Guys, remember my house. For 2 nights and 2 days, it was wide open. No one noticed that the door was open. No one saw it was open. So I was like, wow. Surely, God, you ensure that the door, though in my physical eyes it's open, you ensure that it will, in the sight of people, they could see it's very, very closed. No one dared to get in. I also felt like God had placed a soldier who was standing in front of my door, such that nothing could get into my house while I was busy worshiping God. My good people, at this point I discovered that you can never serve God and come back to tears. If you fully surrender to Him, it's all in vain, even when we employ the soldiers to take care of our homes. It's all in vain if we have not welcomed God Himself to take care of our own homes, of our own lives. And that was the most amazing experience that I had. Now God Himself ensured my house looked as if it was so closed. Not even a single coin was stolen. Not even, guys, my phone, I left it at the seat. When I came back, it was just there, nothing, no one had gotten there. If that wasn't God, guys, tell me what it was. So far, I just felt like sharing with you because I saw God. For me, I saw God with my true eyes, because that wasn't possible by my own self. And the fact that God never allowed me to know so that I may not be distracted. Maybe He wanted to teach me a lesson. That is why He allowed me to forget to close the door. I know some of you will say, oh, Sarah, you're very careless. And it's okay, I might be very careless. But so far I have learned to allow God to take charge. Thank you for watching. I'm so glad, and I hope you have learned something. See you next time in our next video.